The Benzite king slammed his fist on his crystal throne's armrest, an iridescent alien snarl etched across his ancient face as he glared at video images of the Earth. Those pathetic humans would pay dearly for their impudence. Just minutes before, human explorer and diplomat Bryant had been striding through the gleaming streets of the Benzite capital. He craned his neck, staring up at towering alien spires that scrubbed the clouds and stretched as far as the eye could see. Sleek flying vehicles zipped between soaring skyscrapers and floating sky gardens. It was clear that Benzite technology and architecture was light years beyond Earth's primitive structures. But not all was well in the sprawling alien megacity. Graffiti-marred statue plinths, cracked windows were taped over, scorch marks from energy weapons scarred walls. Something was very wrong here. Bryant's Benzite guide, Vortis, the king's most trusted advisor, noticed the human's wandering gaze. "Pay the vandalism no mind," Vortis clicked, his forked tongue flicking the air. "Every civilization has its malcontents. His Majesty keeps them in line." The king's throne room was cavernous and cold. The king himself was as ancient and freezing as the chamber. "So you are the human come to treat with the mighty Benzite dominion," the wizened alien monarch said slowly. His eyes flashed with contempt. "Your people are nothing to us. What could your backwater planet possibly offer?" Bryant swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. This first contact was quickly going south. If he didn't win over the Benzite king, and fast, it could mean invasion, war, enslavement, or worse, for Earth. The stakes couldn't be higher. Bryant couldn't afford to fail here. Bryant pulled up a holographic display module from his satchel and rapidly typed in commands. Glowing blue light shimmered and sparked, forming three-dimensional shapes. The Great Pyramid of Giza rotated in the air, alongside the Taj Mahal, the Eiffel Tower, and the International Space Station. "These are just a small sample of humanity's achievements," Bryant said, manipulating the images with deft flicks of his fingers. "We build, we persevere. When disaster strikes, as it so often does, we rebuild, bigger and better than before." He pinched the space station, expanding it. This orbiting structure was constructed by the cooperation of over a dozen human nations, putting aside their differences and rivalries to expand the frontiers of science. The king remained stone-faced, but his posture shifted. He leaned forward slightly in his throne. Bryant took that as a sign of engagement and continued. "And that's just our technology and architecture. Earth's greatest strength is our diversity. Hundreds of languages, thousands of cultures, billions of people, each with their own unique perspective and story." "Truly?" Vortis asked. "Multiple languages and cultures coexisting on a single world?" "It hasn't always been easy," Bryant admitted. "But yes, we've learned to live together, to find strength in our differences rather than fear." The king ran a claw along his angular chin. "Perhaps your species is more complex than I first assumed, human." Vortis clicked rapidly. "If I may, Your Majesty, I suggest we send a delegation to this Earth to witness these alleged wonders for ourselves." The king drummed his fingers on the armrest, the rhythmic tapping echoing through the chamber. After a long moment he spoke. "Very well, we shall go to Earth." He jabbed a finger at Bryant. "And you shall be our guide, human. Show us the heights of your civilization, but know that if we find you lacking, there will be consequences." Bryant bowed his head. "I understand, Your Majesty. I promise Earth will astound you." As preparations for the king's journey began, Vortis pulled Bryant aside. "You have piqued His Majesty's interest, no easy feat. But be warned, his favor can change like the wind." Bryant nodded. "I'll keep that in mind, thank you, Vortis." With a few precious hours before departure, Bryant took the opportunity to explore the sprawling palace complex. Lush gardens and intricate fountains dotted the grounds, but in a secluded courtyard, he stumbled upon something unexpected. A group of Benzites huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. They froze when they saw Bryant. One stepped forward, his scales a brilliant crimson. "You're him, the human," the red Benzite said. "I am Zathak, leader of the resistance." "Resistance?" Bryant asked. "Against the king?" Zathak nodded. "The king's rule is unjust, cruel. He hoards the wealth of our world, leaving scraps for the rest of us. We mean to end his tyranny." Bryant's mind raced. This complicated things immensely. He had a mission to represent Earth, to build a bridge with the Benzites, but could he ignore such blatant injustice? "I'm not sure how much I can do," Bryant said carefully, "but tell me more." The Benzite delegation emerged from their sleek spacecraft, marveling at the blue skies and green landscapes of Earth. Bryant greeted them with a bow, eager to showcase the wonders of his homeworld. He led them through the bustling streets of New York City, where towering skyscrapers reached for the heavens, and people of all colors and creeds mingled in a vibrant tapestry of life. The king's eyes widened as he witnessed the city's energy, the way its inhabitants moved with purpose and passion. From there, they journeyed to the ancient ruins of Machu Picchu, perched high in the Andes Mountains. As they walked among the stone structures, Bryant spoke of the Inca civilization that had built this marvel centuries ago, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. But as the tour continued, the king's wonder turned to unease. He saw the freedom and self-determination of Earth's people, the way they charted their own destinies and pursued their dreams. It was a stark contrast to the rigid hierarchy and control he maintained on his own world. In a private meeting, the king confronted Bryant, his eyes narrowed and his voice cold. "You have shown me the potential of your world, human, and now I see it as a threat to my own rule. Your people's freedom and creativity are a danger to the order and stability of my empire." He leaned forward, his claws digging into the armrests of his chair. "You will help me suppress the knowledge of Earth's achievements. You will ensure that my people never learn of the possibilities that exist beyond our borders. If you refuse, I will have no choice but to launch a full-scale invasion of your planet." Bryant's heart raced, his mind reeling at the king's ultimatum. He could not betray his own people, could not condemn them to a life of subjugation under the Benzite regime, but how could he stand against the might of an alien empire? As he grappled with this impossible choice, a secret communication from Zathak flickered to life on his wrist device. The rebel leader's face was grave, his voice urgent. "The king was not always the ruler of our people," Zathak revealed. "He seized power through treachery and deceit, eliminating any who stood in his way. And now he plans to do the same to your world." Bryant's eyes widened, a new understanding dawning. The king's fear, his desperation to maintain control, it all stemmed from the fragility of his own position. If the truth of his past were to be exposed, his grip on power would crumble. He knew what he had to do. He had to forge an alliance with the Benzite rebels, had to work with them to reveal the king's true nature and prevent the subjugation of Earth. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance. Bryant took a deep breath, meeting the king's gaze with a newfound determination. "I'm afraid I cannot accept your terms, Your Majesty. Earth will not bow to tyranny. Not now. Not ever." The king's face contorted with rage, his claws slicing through the air. "Then you have sealed your planet's fate, human. Prepare for war." Bryant's heart pounded as he crept through the sleek corridors of the heart of Benzar, Zathak at his side. The rebel leader's scales shimmered under the ship's pulsing lights as he tapped furiously at a holographic interface. "I'm in," Zathak hissed, his forked tongue flicking out. "We have control of the communication systems." Bryant nodded, his mouth set in a grim line. It was now or never. They had to expose the king's treachery before it was too late. As the flagship prepared to break orbit, Bryant and Zathak's faces filled every view screen on the bridge. The king leapt to his feet, his eyes widening in shock and rage. "People of Benzar," Bryant began, his voice steady and clear. "Your king has deceived you. He seized power through violence and betrayal, not divine right." Zathak stepped forward, holding up a glowing data crystal. "We have proof. Records of his crimes against our people, of his plans to subjugate the humans of Earth as he has subjugated us." The bridge erupted into chaos. Shouts of disbelief and anger filled the air. The king's elite guard drew their weapons, advancing on the rebel duo. "Seize them!" the king roared, spittle flying from his mouth. "I want their heads!" Bryant and Zathak fought back to back, energy blasts sizzling past them. Bryant's pulse rifle barked, dropping guards with each squeeze of the trigger. Zathak's crystalline blade flashed, slicing through armor like paper. But there were too many. The rebels were being overwhelmed. Bryant saw the king making a break for the hangar bay, his robes billowing behind him. "So he's going for an escape pod," Bryant shouted over the din of battle. "We can't let him get away." He sprinted after the fleeing monarch, dodging blaster fire and leaping over fallen bodies. He burst into the hangar just as the king was sealing himself inside a sleek, silver pod. "It's over, Your Majesty," Bryant panted, leveling his rifle at the cockpit. "Come out and face justice." The king's laughter crackled over the pod's external speakers. "You may have turned my people against me, human, but I still hold the key to your world's destruction." He held up a small black device. "With a single command, I can unleash a virus that will corrupt every computer system on Earth, sending your civilization back to the Stone Age." Bryant's blood ran cold. The pod's engines flared to life, ready to launch the king to freedom. "Don't do this," Bryant pleaded, his finger tightening on the trigger. "If you unleash that virus, millions will die. And if I don't, I will spend the rest of my days in a cell," the king sneered. "I will be a king or I will be a god of destruction, but I will never be a prisoner." The seconds ticked by, each one an eternity. Bryant's mind raced, desperately seeking a solution. If he let the king go, Earth would be saved, but the tyrant would escape justice. If he stopped the king here and now, he would doom his own world to chaos and ruin. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and the decision rested squarely on Bryant's shoulders. Bryant lowered his rifle, his heart heavy with the weight of his decision. As the king's escape pod blasted into the void of space, he slipped a tracking device onto its hull, a final gambit in this deadly game of interstellar chess. The king's guards swarmed the hangar, their energy weapons trained on the lone human. Bryant raised his hands in surrender, allowing them to clamp restraints around his wrists. They dragged him through the ship's corridors, their claws digging into his flesh. On the bridge, Zathak watched the scene unfold on the viewscreens, his scales shimmering with a mix of shock and admiration. He turned to the rebel fighters at his side, his voice low and urgent. The human sacrificed his own freedom for his world. For all of us. We can't let that be in vain. With a rallying cry, Zathak and his allies surged through the ship, their crystalline blades and pulse rifles cutting through the king's loyalists. The once pristine corridors of the heart of Benzar ran slick with blood and echoed with the screams of the dying. In the chaos, Bryant seized his opportunity. He slammed his restraints against a bulkhead, shattering them in a burst of sparks. Snatching a fallen guard's weapon, he plunged into the fray, fighting his way to Zathak's side. Together, they led the charge on the king's stronghold, a towering fortress carved into the heart of an asteroid. The rebel forces clashed against the entrenched defenders, energy blasts and explosions painting the starscape in shades of destruction. As they breached the fortress walls, a chilling realization swept through the rebel ranks. The king, in his final act of spite, had already unleashed the virus targeting Earth's technology. Bryant raced to a command console, his fingers flying across the alien interface as he desperately sought to counter the digital plague. But the king had one last card to play. He emerged from the shadows, a cruel smile twisting his ancient features. "You're too late, human," he hissed. "Your world will burn, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." Bryant and the king clashed in a final, brutal confrontation, exchanging blows and energy blasts amidst the sparking ruins of the command center. With a last desperate lunge, Bryant grabbed the king's control device, crushing it in his fist, even as the tyrant's claws found his heart. As Bryant's life faded, he watched the virus's progress halt, Earth's systems stabilizing. The king lay dead at his feet, and the rebel forces stormed the room, their victory cries tinged with grief as they saw their fallen ally. Zathak knelt beside Bryant, clasping the human's hand as the light faded from his eyes. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten," the rebel leader whispered. "We will build a new Benzar, one of peace and cooperation with your people." But even as the Benzites celebrated their newfound freedom, the scars of the conflict lingered. The once gleaming cities lay in ruins, the populace traumatized by cycles of oppression and war. The road to recovery would be long and arduous, fraught with the challenges of forging a new identity from the ashes of the old. And on Earth, the true cost of interstellar diplomacy became all too clear. The knowledge that one of their own had given his life to protect them from an alien threat sent shockwaves through the global community. The fragile peace Bryant had won came at the steepest of prices, one that would cast a long shadow over the future of both worlds. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.